Right now at 5, voters return to the polls. The races and results we're watching.
Plus, rebate checks possibly coming to Wisconsin. Who could get one, how much, and the catch.
We're watching WKBT La Crosse. This is News 8 Now at 5.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for News 8 Now at 5. I'm Emily Brown.
And I'm Ken Kozarowski. Folks in Wisconsin could soon see rebate checks.
Yeah, as much as $1,000 in free cash. But a few things need to happen first.
News 8 Now's Grace Monk is in the newsroom tonight to break it all down. Grace.
The state has a $2.5 billion budget surplus, and two key Republicans say that money should be used for tax rebates. According to a new bill, the rebates would be a one-time offer. Married couples would get up to $1,000 and up to $500 for single filers. Rebates would only be available for people that owed income tax in 2024. The bill is part of an effort to compromise with Democrats on how to spend the surplus.
The two sides might come together because there's a lot of pressure on them to do something in response to the sticker shock that people have experienced with high property tax bills.
In December, Wisconsinites saw a hike in property taxes. Both parties agree that the surplus should be used to provide relief. If this happens, payments would be automatically distributed and all rebates would be sent by September 15th. Reporting in the newsroom, Grace Monk, News 8 Now.
All right, thank you, Grace. Developing now, Governor Tony Evers is less than 2 hours away from his State of the State speech. It's his last one. Evers is expected to talk about property tax relief, school funding, and health care costs. His address starts at 7 p.m. and you can watch the stream live on News 8 Plus. And his address is our News 8 Now poll. Only 16% say yes, while 83% say they plan on skipping it. You can vote at news8000.com.
Also happening today, spring midterm elections. In Westby, David Egan, Peter Eng, and Toby Wood are vying for seat number 6 on the school board. The top 2 will advance to the spring election. And in Soldiers Grove, Jill Quandall, Harrison Heilman, and Katie Dobson are competing for 2 village trustee spots. We'll have results and coverage tonight at 10.
The tributes are pouring in for civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson.
He died today at age 84. In 2011, Jackson visited UWL. It was part of a statewide college tour focusing on voting rights. One of the hot topics, proposed changes to voter ID laws. CBS's Natalie Brand has a look at Jackson's life and legacy.
Outside the Rainbow Push Coalition office in Chicago Tuesday, Carolyn Dunbar brought flowers to honor the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, saying the loss feels like family.
I'm going to miss him, everything that he stood for us as a people. My tears are real.
In New York, the Reverend Al Sharpton described him as a mentor.
So he made me believe even a kid on welfare in Brownsville, Brooklyn, could be somebody because of Jesse Jackson.
Jackson, a civil rights leader who marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., went on to found his own organizations committed to fighting for justice and equality for the underrepresented.
My constituency is the desperate, the damned, the disinherited.
In the 80s, Reverend Jackson ran for president twice. While he faced criticism in his first campaign for anti-Jewish comments, he's credited with expanding the Democratic coalition.
His presidential campaigns of 84 and 88 were influential in how he conducted a campaign to really bring people who were locked out and left out.
In a statement, former President Barack Obama called Jackson a true giant and said he laid the foundation for his own campaign.
President Trump paid tribute to Jackson in a social media post, calling him a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts.
The flag was lowered to half staff at the Historic District building in Washington, D.C., where Jackson pushed for D.C. statehood. Despite declining health in recent years, Jackson continued to make public appearances, including at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, where he received a standing ovation. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
In News 8 follow-up, crews pulling a truck out of the water at Lake Onalaska. It fell through the ice yesterday near Schaefer's Landing. Bystanders jumped into action to pull the driver out safely. Witnesses said it was a good reminder when ice fishing to make sure the ice is thick enough. He also wanted to remind ice fishermen that no ice is safe ice.
And another day of pleasant temperatures in the region, but some potential for rain later today, Greg.
It's going to be quite a wild spin of weather going on this week, too, getting back to winter with a powerful storm that's coming through the area. As you notice, it's still mild out there. We didn't quite get, obviously, the record, but still some areas of the south got all the way close to 60. Other areas well into the 40s and 50s. And once again, this is well above average for this time of year. For this right now, currently, we have high cloud cover overhead at both locations. That winds out there at east at 16 to 20 miles per hour, so it is kind of breezy out there right now. No precipitation expected right now at the current time. Precipitation will start forming later this evening. Just light rain expected for Eau Claire, picking up in intensity probably later, but still 40 degrees at 9 p.m. For La Crosse, be a little bit longer to see some sprinkles. I think they'll see that probably later this evening, closer to midnight. 46 still mild, but the wind will continue too. Radar right now looks impressive, but a lot of that is not reaching the ground quite yet. So later on, we'll give you more updates on this powerful winter storm that brings us a lot of rain and wind. But then we got more winter-like storm for us too, and that means more snow later in the forecast too. We'll explain all that a bit later.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Well, Congressman Derek Van Orden visiting Genoa Fire and Rescue today, meeting with fire officials to highlight the importance of a $450,000 investment secured through the Rural Community Facilities Program. The department used that money to buy a new fire truck.
We got a demand signal in Washington, D.C. through my office from the chief and his people telling us exactly what Genoa needs. And then my staff went to work in Washington, D.C. to make sure that this took place. That's how government is supposed to work.
The funding was part of a $22 million package for community projects Van Orden secured earlier this year.
3rd congressional candidate Rebecca Cook also visiting the region today, making a stop at the La Crosse County Administrative Building with Senator Tammy Baldwin to discuss rising rural health care costs across the country.
For me, this is a personal issue. One of the reasons why I stepped up to run for Congress was to increase healthcare access and affordability. My family's seen this firsthand. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer and has really struggled to be able to afford his prescription drugs.
Cook will face off against Emily Berge and Rodney Rave in the April primary. The winner will face Van Orden in November.
Happening around the state, Milwaukee attorney Michael Hupy is jumping into the Nancy Guthrie case. He is the president of Crime Stoppers there. He's now offering a $100,000 reward for any tips that can lead to an arrest. It comes as the FBI says DNA found on a glove nearby Guthrie's home doesn't match anything in the federal database.
UW-Madison now requiring proof of vaccination status. It comes after a student was diagnosed with measles. University officials said the new policy doesn't mean students need to be vaccinated, but students that fail to submit their records will be subject to their registration being placed on hold.
The Beach Boys will play at the Wisconsin State Fair. They'll perform August 16th. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. The fair runs from August 6th through the 16th.
Still to come, far apart and no end in sight. Coming up, what's the big sticking point in the partial government shutdown?
Plus, the Stephen Colbert interview yanked off the air, the guest and the reason why.
Tomorrow morning, as tariffs increase, we know how much is coming out of your wallet. Plus, Art says to keep your shovel and snow brush handy. That and more starting at 5.
New details in the deadly shooting at a boys' high school hockey game in Rhode Island. Police say Roberto Esposito killed 2 people before turning the gun on themselves. 3 others are in critical condition. The incident has been described as a targeted incident related to a family dispute.
It was pretty horrible. I still don't understand why somebody would do that.
A good Samaritan stepped in and interjected in this scene, and that's probably what led to a swift end of this tragic event.
Now, motive isn't clear, but court records show the shooter had a history of family-related disputes and legal issues.
Negotiations are underway to end the partial government shutdown.
But so far, there's no end in sight. CBS's Erica Brown reports.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. Senate Democrats have sent their latest proposal to the White House in an effort to end the stalemate over funding for the Department of Homeland Security.
Are you going to sit down with Democrats this week on DHS funding, sir?
I will, but we have to protect our law enforcement.
The White House says the two sides are still far apart as Democrats demand changes to how ICE and Border Patrol are carrying out the Trump administration's immigration enforcement actions.
They're part of the whole system that is working.
Democrats say the system is broken.
As we horrifically saw in Minneapolis with the cold-blooded killings of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy.
While progress moves at a snail's pace, a pipe collapses, sending millions of gallons of wastewater flowing into the Potomac River. DC Water says it will be mid-March before it's repaired.
We were a little cautious about coming out here today, knowing that there was a spill, and worried about what that impact would be to people down here.
President Trump has called both the partial shutdown and wastewater in the Potomac River, quote, Democrat-caused disasters, and says he's waiting for calls to help with cleanup of the river. President Trump posted on social media that the federal government will need to step in, and FEMA, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security, will play a role in the response. So far, the shutdown is not impacting most Americans, with TSA agents still showing up for work, despite the looming threat that they may soon miss a paycheck. Erica Brown, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Talk show host Stephen Colbert is speaking out against CBS. He says the network forced him to scrap an interview with Democratic Texas Senate candidate James Tallarico out of fear of the FCC and its crackdown of its equal time rule.
It's an old FCC rule that applies only to radio and broadcast television, not cable or streaming, that says if a show has a candidate on during an election, they have to have all that candidate's opponents on as well. There's long been an exception for this rule, an exception for news interviews and talk show interviews with politicians.
Tallarico faces Jasmine Crockett in a primary next month. They're looking to unseat Texas Republican John Cornyn in November.
Well, Norway is topping the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and the team says there's a secret behind its success. The head of Norway's Olympic delegation says it comes from a decades-old culture of putting children's joy ahead of results, and the country's efforts to make sure every child has equal access to sports.
We do not rank the kids. It's not like, oh, you are the right kid or you are not the good kid, because we are really focused on not creating losers. We want to create happy kids.
The Scandinavian powerhouse has led the medal count at every Winter Games since 2014. More news ahead.
But first.
Yeah, we definitely got a wild weather going on here. Rain, wind, but then actually a chance to see accumulating snow for a lot of areas later in the week, too, along with much colder conditions. We'll break it all down coming up on your First Warn Weather Update after the break. Yeah, we definitely have a very powerful system that's taking shape over the plains. A lot of fire issues to the west of the plains, too, given the strong winds. Thunderstorm potential tonight. Snow and wind further north. Right now, we're going to be on the rain and wind side. And right now, I've overlaid not the temperatures. This is the relative humidity. You see, it's still fairly low, and that's why a lot of this is not reaching the ground quite yet. We need to get those 70 and 80% out there to really start seeing some of this activity. But over time tonight, it is going to develop, and with more as this low pressure begins to push further to the east, too, into Minnesota, eventually southwestern Minnesota, too. So overall, there's your wind speeds right now. This is all coming out of the east-southeast ahead of it. You can see some speeds, too, pretty impressive as you go further to the west. So it's been quite breezy. This will continue tonight, but then we're going to start turning things around. Here's a low pressure. This one is very strong right now, deepening over the area, and you can see quite a bit of activity, too. So that's going to be approaching, lifting to the northeast through the area through tonight, with a frontal passage probably towards tomorrow morning or later tonight for most areas. So if we kind of time this out, precipitation eventually starts forming a little bit of a line, and most of this is going to be probably along and north of I-94. All rain, but you know it's later in the night, around 10 to 11 p.m. Additional showers develop, maybe even thunderstorms too with this. You can see some of this yellow 3D look here indicating you could see some thunderstorm potential with this line coming through after midnight. Once we get past 2 or 3, you can see most of the activity is done with for the morning commute. It should be dry with clearing skies as the winds begin to turn around to the west. The only exception for the morning commute would be north of Eau Claire, probably to Rusk County. You'll still have that precipitation going on for a few hours, but then it'll be ending. That's where most of the rainfall will occur, up to a ½ inch or more. Far less and spotty. If you get one of those thunderstorms developing, you might get over a quarter, but as you go further south and west of I-90, it's fairly light precipitation, if not much at all. So it really depends on where you are tonight to see the heavier amounts of rain. Now tomorrow, clear skies briefly for the area to the south of I-90. This is when the wind will start picking up out of the west, very quite strong across southeast Minnesota and northeast Iowa. We're going to see wraparound moisture begin to work back in. Most of this is going to stay north of I-90, but we'll see rain and eventually turning to a little bit of light snow for areas north of I-90, especially going into the afternoon hours too. You can see Eau Claire, areas up there. We'll see more of a snow going into Wednesday evening. Light accumulations with this potential, but notice how sharp cutoff to it. If you're south of this area, you're likely just to see clouds. If you're further south towards like Crawford County and those areas, you might see a lot of sun all day. Winds will be a factor all day. This will eventually wrap up. Overnight lows tonight, fairly still mild in the 40s. Tomorrow, not much change with temperatures as you go further north. Further south, we still might be able to reach 50, especially south of I-90, where you won't have the cloud cover, but you'll have the wind too. And keep in mind, this wind gust could be potentially pretty strong. There's a wind advisory for those areas that could be gusting to 45, along with a little bit of an elevated fire risk there due to the dry conditions too going on. Otherwise, we have to keep note going into Wednesday night into Thursday, Friday morning. That is when we could see accumulating snow. We'll have to keep an eye on Thursday night into Friday for some travel issues. Otherwise, cold weekend, and then we do get back to seasonal next week. So quite a wild swing, but yeah, it's going to be back to winter.
All right. Well, a little pinballing on the 8th.
You know, it's getting to the end of February, so you still got to flip around in March too. So
That's true.
It's coming.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, coming up, the best video of the day, a UPS driver versus 2 turkeys.
Expect more from News 8 Now. Thanks for watching.
A wild scene in Connecticut.
Sure was. A UPS driver being chased by turkeys. He was seen running from door to door to dodge the birds. Neighbors say the birds like to hang out in the neighborhood, but rarely go after anyone.
Yeah, that
Something
was
special about this guy.
Oh gosh, yeah. He's probably got like food or something like that. That's my nightmare. I have had nightmares as a kid of like a crazy turkey coming after me.
Turkey
They're just
specifically,
not,
okay.
Yeah, the turkey. They're just not cute looking. Like they look at the face.
Yeah, the face.
Yeah, they're like angry looking and
like neck gizzard.
there's nothing adorable about them except
No.
on the table.
No, it'd be
during
terrifying having to run
Thanksgiving.
away from him.
Yeah. All right, Greg has a final look at your forecast right after this.
Definitely wet tonight. It's going to be cooler tomorrow. Some rain or snow Wednesday, but keep an eye on Thursday night and Friday for some accumulating snow too. And much colder for the weekend.
Yeah, looks more like conventional February type weather.
But yes, exactly.
We've had a good run, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us at 5.